Hello, hello, and welcome to also on UEFA Europa League semifinals. We have Olympique Marseille Atalanta. We have Roma against Bayer Leverkusen to help you navigate these ties, to help you analyze them, prepare your best options. We have Alvaro Romeo and Daniele Fisichella. How are you guys?
All good.
Very well, thank you.
Amazing, amazing. We have two great ties for these semifinals. We had them for the Champions League and also for the Europa League, and we're going to have them as well for the Conference League. But before we get going with the show, please do not forget to like, subscribe, hit the notifications bell if you haven't done yet, and do not leave before the end because before the safe bet and ACCA, because we have some important news on our monthly tips competition. Now, let's go with the show. All right, guys. So we're going to start with Roma and Bayern Leverkusen at the Olympico. Leverkusen will seek revenge against Roma because they face each other in this same stage last season, and the Italians, with Jose Mourinho on that time in charge, they advanced to the final after 1-0 win on aggregate. I don't think many people this time will think of so little emotions in front of goal. We are talking about teams that have netted 61 times and 77 times goals in their league so far. Dani, Roma passed Feyenoord in penalties in the playoff, delivered a masterclass against Brighton in the last 16. They show amazing authority to dispatch Milan in the quarterfinals. Why not to think about them, the ones that could end this 46 matches unbeaten run of Leverkusen? Although they will need, I believe, to do better defensively than they have done against Napoli on Sunday, because they show some frailties then on that back four. They didn't create as well too much up front, even though they scored twice. And this said, so far, Daniele De Rossi has shown much more attacking flair that I would have thought when he took over Mo. But do you think that against Leverkusen, we could see a much more maybe conservative Roma side? Because since they won 1-0 at the San Siro, they haven't kept a clean sheet so far in the last 4 games, and they would need it against Leverkusen. Can you see a change in the way they approach a game against Leverkusen?
Hardly, because I think
Really? Okay.
under De Rossi, I don't think Roma know how to play any other way. And they've been successful with a new change in mentality and a new change in approach. When Mourinho was on the bench, and last season, of course, 1-0 at the Olympico and 0-0 in Leverkusen, when Leverkusen in the return leg had 23 shots to 1 of Roma, a proper parking of the bus at Leverkusen. With Mourinho in charge, Roma were trying not to concede goals, despite not having a great defense. And by doing that, they were giving up the opportunity to attack. With De Rossi is different. They know they're going to concede goals. So let's try and outscore the opposition by scoring 2 or 3 goals or more than them. And I think the change of mentality has been reflected. I know there's been a couple of 1-0 here and there for Roma, but the trend has changed completely. I think if Roma gives away the possession or try to back off, Bayer Leverkusen can get the better of them. The way Roma can hurt them is by playing toe-to-toe. But of course, this is going to be, I think, a very different game from last season. Leverkusen have improved. Last season, when Roma before facing Leverkusen, they were winless in 4 games, and they were lacking goals. They only scored 41 goals last season before facing Leverkusen, which was a lowest record. I'm looking back at the notes from last year, of course, because we prepare this very same game with Alvaro and Edu. Yeah. But, you know, Leverkusen, on the other hand, of course, the big favorites, they haven't given up the challenge. The challenge is to stay unbeaten, 46 games unbeaten. The challenge is to do the treble, which they can do because they can beat Kaiserslautern, who plays in the Zweite League and probably going to go down in the German Cup. The challenge is to do something that never happened before. But I think this is going to be a very leveled match. Man to man, I'm not sure Leverkusen are so much better than Roma. Tactically, they've been smarter, they've been better coach. Of course, they had a smoother season. They didn't have to change the manager in due course. But man for man, Roma, with these attacking players and with these attacking options, I think they can hurt Leverkusen. Also because no clean sheet in the previous 3 for Leverkusen, none in the last 4 for Roma, of course, as you remember. And also, the Olympico factor. I know I always bang on about it every single video, but I think it's worth remembering. First of all, Roma have scored in the last 33 home games in all competitions. They got a very strong home record in Europe. Only lost one of the last 25 Europa League games in Rome. And if you look at the knockout games at the Olympico, do you know when the last time they lost a knockout game at the Olympico, Leo? I mean, it's been a while ago. 2017 against Villarreal. De Rossi was playing that game. 19 games, 16 won, 3 draws. The last 9 games, 1 win, 10 wins, 1 draw. I'm not suggesting Roma gonna steamroll past Bayer Leverkusen, but if there is a tie that Leverkusen could lose, it's probably this one. Although, of course, Roma come on the back of a very busy schedule. They had to play Udine a week ago. The remaining 20 minutes, which they won. They managed to score the goal in the 95th minute. Look, for me, a different game. Well, I hope so. Both teams to score 185. Probably plenty of goals here.
And how important could be the set pieces for Roma, taking into account that we don't know how is Romelu or Lukaku. Yesterday he didn't fare against Napoli, although Tammy Abraham, he scored his first goal in 2024 after a year of so many troubles with injury. He's back, and who knows, maybe he can score as well in the semi-final. But I mean, the set pieces have been important also for Roma, with Pellegrini, with Cristante scoring on those on corners.
That's a heritage from Mourinho. Last season, they were scoring a lot of goals from set pieces, and they continue to do so. They're very well drilled. Yes, of course, the equalizer against Napoli came from a set piece. It could be important. They are a strong side. They're a big side, Roma, and Cristante running into the boxes could be a really big weapon. Of course, I think I expect Ibram to start this one because Azmoun struggled against Napoli yesterday, the first 40 minutes really to keep hold of the ball. So yeah, that could be another thing. But you know, on the other hand, you got a very well drilled side in Bayer Leverkusen, a team that never gives up, score a lot of late goals. And, you know, Grimaldo, probably one of the man of the season, 13 assists in the Bundesliga, and better than any other player in Europe Big 5 leagues, without mentioning, of course, Florian Wirtz and Patrick Schick, a former Roma player, who was a little bit unfortunate in his spell there, returned to Olympico maybe to haunt the former team. A cracking game to watch.
Absolutely. And Alvaro, Leverkusen had the feeling that might be doing it in purpose, because for the 7th time they have saved their unbeaten run in added time. On Saturday against Stuttgart, Andrich scored in the 97th minute. They scored 21 goals. It's incredible. After the 86th minute this season, all 8 of Leverkusen's last goals in the competition this side, the last 2, or the last the 2 they scored in the last 16 and the 2 quarterfinal legs have come after the 70th minutes, and half of those goals have come after the 90th minutes. But for how long can you play with heroics, or they have created this kind of like aura of invincibility around them?
I think that rather than creating that aura is the belief that they can score. But this is not sustainable in the future, as we have seen with Liverpool. Look at them. Everything was very good for them, and they were coming back every single time, to the point that it was probably draining for the opponents and those who were in the title race involved with them, Arsenal and Liverpool. And suddenly Atalanta traveled to Anfield, and Liverpool didn't score their chances, and Liverpool lost 3-0. So I think that this is not sustainable in the future, but it's true. It has paid a lot of dividends for Bayer Leverkusen. I remember the game against Karabakh, because for me it was the perfect example. In that game, I was very amazed by the fact that Bayer Leverkusen had to score. Karabakh was defending very deep, obviously defending the result. They had basically 9 men inside their own box. And Bayer Leverkusen had a lot of variety of attacking options. Not only players, but also the way they were doing it. Plenty of passes, vertical passes to the penalty spot, who were just low passes that cross the defense without anybody being able to tackle that, and then Grimaldo appearing on the left, Frimpong on the right, but Grimaldo especially on the left. So, they had the variety. They didn't get stagnant with the ball. They made sure that every minute they were producing a shot or something like that. So that is one of the reasons why Bayer Leverkusen, when they really needed to win a game or to come back and draw one game, they have done it this season. And the thing is that, and I don't know if you agree with me or not on these guys, but I think that there is a clear mission from Bayer Leverkusen to be unbeaten this season. The way they have celebrated a few goals is incredible. The way they celebrated their goal against West Ham United, the way they celebrated the goals against Stuttgart this weekend. Remind me a little bit of Manchester City scoring their 100th goal of the season in the Premier League in the final game of the 2017-2018 season. I don't know if that was the 100th goal of Manchester City or the 100th point of Manchester City that
100
season.
points.
100 points, yeah. But anyway, I think that there is a mission. Bayer Leverkusen wants to finish the season unbeaten, but they are playing against Roma, and Roma are difficult, and Daniele broke it down very well, and their last defeat at home in a knockout game in Europe was in 2017. This season they have won every Europa League game at home. Obviously, they have scored in all those games, and they scored one goal against Feyenoord, which is the Dutch champion. 4 goals against Brighton and Hove Albion, who are in shambles. 2 goals against Milan. So Roma has been a scoring side in the Europa League, but Bayer Leverkusen is a scoring side as well, and they have scored in every game this season apart from one against Gladbach. So that points me straight away to the goals market. So both teams to score 183. I like it. Over 2.5 goals. Maybe I like it even better. 2.0. Imagine that Roma or Bayer Leverkusen have a terrific day and they manage not to concede anyway. Those bets for me are the best ones I can bring from this game. It's true that overall in the tie, I think that Bayer Leverkusen, for obvious reasons, are favorite to qualify. But I don't think that there is a big point in betting on qualifying, who qualifies or who doesn't yet. Let's wait until the second leg. I'm going to say that both teams to score 183 is something that sounds very appealing to me.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it looks like a must, the both team to score. And also, what we mentioned, how lately or how they can score in the second half by Leverkusen, but Roma as well is showing a strong mentality because on Sunday they were winning 1-0, Napoli makes it 2-1, and they still can get back into games. They don't mind that. So both teams to score in the second half, which could happen, takes the odds a little bit more higher. 3.50 might result a little bit more adventurous, but it's something that it could happen because Leverkusen they score, and Roma, if Leverkusen score, it's a team which we don't panic. Dani,
No. They don't, and I think they are the highest scoring team in the last 15 minutes in Serie A, 14 or 15 goals. Yes, of course, they score a Napoli as well. No, they don't panic. They are, look, Roma have got some flaws as well. They are not often continuous, and sometimes there are gaps in the games. They drop the concentration a little bit. But one thing is for sure, they keep going and they believe a lot. And with the Rossi, even more, that passion, that enthusiasm, and especially at home. So both teams to score in the second half. It is a good bet, I would say. And I think Roma will definitely push Bayer Leverkusen. It's a big challenge. Bayer Leverkusen hasn't had a challenge like this one for a while, maybe for the last 5, 6, 7 games. Even against Dortmund, they were behind, but it looked the better side. I think this is a proper one.
And Roma, Leo, has scored at home in all their 33 games this season.
Yep.
So this is something to take into account as well. Again, Leverkusen has the weapons to hit back with anything. But Roma at home has been very impressive. And I want to talk about Romelu Lukaku as well, and as much as Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang. Let's hope that Lukaku plays here. But both are the top scorers of the Europa League. I think that in their own way, they have been terrific strikers and the good strikers of their own generation. And it's great to see that a player like Romelu Lukaku has found again a great form in Italy after having a terrific season with Inter 3 years ago. Well, I think that Roma, whenever he plays, he's given a torrid time to anybody because he is maybe not the most accurate striker you will find in the world, and sometimes he has had terrible misses in front of goal. But if you take Lukaku for a whole season and you make him your nominal number 9 in a team like Roma, you know that your team is going to qualify for Europe, for sure.
And watching Lukaku the whole season, even though with setbacks with injuries, you cannot stop thinking like, why Pochettino didn't do anything to get him back, even if the player didn't want. Maybe
You look at
something to
Nicolas
take.
Jackson, yes,
So,
the way he misses goals. Yes,
I agree. Hopefully he's gonna fit and play. We will wait and see on Thursday, guys. Before I move on to Olympique Marseille Atalanta, if you want to say anything or any other tip, please let me know right now. Otherwise, I move straight away onto perfect. So we move on to Olympique Marseille Atalanta at the Velodrome. Olympique Marseille left Benfica behind in the quarterfinals after a 2-2 on aggregate, beating them on penalties. Atalanta, of course, making headlines with that 3-0 at Anfield. They lost the second leg, but still enough for a 3-1 on aggregate. Alvaro, Olympique's form might not be extraordinary at the moment. They are 7 in Ligue 1, out of European positions, with 3 games to reach the end of the season. But the good news for them is that the first leg is at home. 33 of their 44 points have come at the Velodrome in the Ligue 1. This year in the Europa League, they won their last 5 home games, and in 3 of them, they scored 2 or more. You mentioned Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang, as the Twitter account of Olympique has referred to Aubameyang. 10 goals in 11 games for him this season in the competition. How do you see this side, and which markets will you be pointing at?
I will be pointing at both teams to score again, or over 2.5 goals. I know that it sounds repetitive, but in the Europa League, we've seen a terrific amount of goals. I say terrific because I believe that the goals are a positive things. Somebody else can disagree, and I think that both things are totally defendable, whether you like attacking football or defensive football. But in the Europa League, we've been a little bit spoiled, and it's been very nice. And both teams to score is something that I will go for, considering that it pays 173, and both sides have really good attacking footballers. I'm going to single out Aubameyang for a second. What a player he has been. I mean, he's going to turn 35, the Gabonese striker, this summer or before summer. But anyway, he has scored already 27 goals this season, 12 of them in the Europa League, by the way, 12 of them in the Europa League. And we're talking about a player who doesn't have the resources that some other strikers have. He's not great at heading, he's not great at volleying. I think that whenever you go in a challenge with him or you go physical with him, he tends to retract a little bit and stay back. But his accuracy is incredible, and that makes him so good. The fact that he rarely misses a chance when the chance is clear, and then he's very fast to get to the places. And he's been fantastic for Marseille in the Europa League. I think that Marseille are in a strange form anyway, because they are competitive in Europe, but they struggle to win domestically. Yep. It's true that they beat Lens in the league, but that was the first win in 6 Ligue 1 games. But it's difficult to read them, again, because in Europe they have been good. And then at home, in general, in all competitions, they have been good as well. They have only lost 2 home games this season, and only 1 in 2024. And it was against Paris Saint-Germain, which is something that you would understand that's a logical thing to happen. And also, they score many goals at home. They have scored at home in every game, but 3 this season in all competitions. And in the Europa League, they have played 6 games at home. They have scored 17. So the average is almost 3 goals per game. And whenever they sniff the moment, they go for it. I remember the game against Villarreal. Villarreal have 10 terrible minutes at the start of the game against Marseille, and the French side just capitalize on that. When they see that, they go after you. When they smell the blood, they go after you. So, this game is going to be very interesting. But as I said before, both teams to score 183 sounds to me like a very good one.
And pointing into that and how Marseille can score easily at home. First team to score market with Marseille scoring first, 1.95. And Dani, taking or following from this, when we talk about Roma, we said that they're a team that they don't panic. If the opposition scores, they know they can get back into the game. And as much as that 3-0 against Liverpool for Atalanta was amazing, in the return leg, they went behind, yes, of course, knowing that the advantage was already done in Anfield. But I don't have the same feeling that with Roma, that that Atalanta is a team that can come back on 2 games. I think that Olympique being the favorite here for the bookies is mostly done because of this home form that we've been discussing with Alvaro. I don't know if the general view in Bergamo at this point is like, if we manage to run riot in Anfield, we are going to be able to do it at the Velodrome. This said, I personally think, Dani, Alvaro, that the atmosphere in Marseille could be much more intimidating than in England. You know him much better, Dani, but does Giampiero Gasperini have sometimes a more pragmatic approach? Something similar I asked you with the Rossi, or he's more of a dogmatic, no matter the occasion, no matter the opposition, Atalanta will always play to attack, we defend with intensity, and to play 1v1 all over the pitch?
Most of the time, it's like you said, they play that way, and they've been playing that way for years now under Gasperini. But I think Gasperini, being more experienced perhaps than the Rossi in this case, he might change his approach slightly, a little bit. Atalanta have got a grueling run of fixtures now. They play every 3 days. They've been playing every 3 days for the last couple of weeks. They got the Coppa Italia final as well.
Yeah.
And for them, it's so important to deliver a trophy. And having the second leg at home, I think, might play on their mind a little bit. And I'm not saying that Atalanta are going to necessarily park the bus, but I think they'll be conscious that the fact that the 3-0 win at Liverpool was a little bit generous scoreline after all. I think Liverpool would have deserved 1 or 2 goals, and maybe one goal of Atalanta obviously was a mistake from Kelleher. In the second leg, if you remember, if Salah scores the lob over João Musso, it's game on. Then in the second half, Atalanta came back to the game, and they managed to hold off Liverpool. But it was a Liverpool side still in the title race. This is a different opposition, Olympique Marseille. I know only 1 clean sheet in the last 9 for Marseille. They beat Lens at the weekend. First win up to March. They took them up to 7th. But it's a Marseille that only playing for 1 competition. And Marseille is very difficult to read. Only 3 clean sheet in the last 20. So, of course, Atalanta could score. We can say that Atalanta have also picked at the right time. They had a very inconsistent season at the beginning, started slowly, then had some great results in December, January. They went 10 games unbeaten, then lost a couple of games. Now they score at least 2 goals in 5 of the last 6. They've been a little bit up and down. Sometimes the rotations on Gasperini didn't quite work. 5 wins in the last 9, so it's a good tally still. But there are a couple of points dropped there. Lost at Cagliari, lost against Liverpool as well. What is impressive is the number of players that can score for Atalanta. Scamacca scored 8 goals in the last 11 and didn't play at the weekend, fully rested. Only Lukman has scored 2 goals, 3 assists since April. Kuhn Miners is in double figures. So Pasalic has been scoring as well. Miranchuk, De Ketelaere have contributed. Ederson. So there is really an array of players that can provide goals, perhaps more than in that Marseille side. Atalanta have only failed to score 4 times away from home. Olympique Marseille only failed to score 3 times at home. If you look at the Ligue 1 table at home, Olympique Marseille will be 3rd. It's very unlikely they're going to qualify for the Champions League. But of course, at the Velodrome is a different story. You have to consider that Olympique Marseille are without a couple of important players, Nadir, Mbemba, Merlin, Meite, Rongier. So Gasset had to make changes there. And let's see how they manage. For me, it's an over 2.5 goals, 197. For me, Atalanta this season in Europe had done really, really well. They played 3 times against Sporting Lisbon, a very difficult side, never lost once. And of course, there is the win against Liverpool into their curriculum. Over 2.5 goals, 197.
Yeah, I think we are pointing to that. We are going into that like a tie with a lot of goals. You mentioned Scamacca. He has scored in Atalanta last 2 Europa League away games, 1 against Sporting Lisbon, 2 in Anfield. And Scamacca to score anytime, very good odds of 3.1. So why not to do it again at the Velodrome? Alvaro, any other comment you would like to add, or any other tip before we move on to Conference League?
Atalanta's scoring form away in the Europa League is remarkable. 12 goals in 5 away games. And probably for this tie, they are slightly favorites, because I think that Atalanta is more composed than Marseille. But as I said in the previous game, let's wait until this wraps up before we go to who qualifies or not, but I think that the Italian side has been one of the most convincing sides in the Europa League this season, altogether with the Leverkusen. But maybe Atalanta's achievements so far in the Europa League are even more impressive.
Okay, guys, so that's everything you need to know about the Europa League semifinals. You're going to hear a little bit more for sure once we go onto the safe bet and ACCA. Now we're going to move on to the two semifinals of the Europa Conference League. This competition, which at least in England, they like to diminish, but I personally really like the Conference League. The first of the two semifinals we got is Aston Villa against Olympiakos. It's going to be an historic night for both teams because Aston Villa, a two-time European Cup winner, this is their first European competition semifinal in more than 40 years. For Olympiakos, it's already their best European run in their history, and the final will be in Athens, in the home of ACCA, which makes this tie even bigger, I believe, Alvaro, for them. This is massive for both sides, no matter how much, again, people in England try to diminish the opportunity for Emery's side. Alvaro, Unai Emery has been very clear of the importance of lifting a trophy, the memories that you can create, the memories that will pass on to different generations. Yes, Champions League qualification through the Premier League is a big deal, but nothing compared to being champions. They won't have Emiliano Martinez because he's suspended, but anyway, he's also injured. So potentially the worries should start for the second leg. We still need to hear about the extent of his injury against Chelsea. If of any worry for Emery is, I think, that this team, this Aston Villa, sometimes can show to be ruthless and play great football, but can also be a little bit nervy or lose controls and concede goals.
Yes.
Everything on the same game, as happens on Saturday against Chelsea, but happened before at home as well against Brentford, for example. So the odds are not great for Villa to win, 1.48. But combine that with Villa scoring first will take the odds closer to 2. But how do you see it? I don't see Villa strolling this game.
I think it's going to be more difficult than it looks. Okay, maybe we look like a fool of ourselves when Aston Villa is already winning 2-0 after 10 minutes in this game. That's a possibility. But I don't know if you agree with me, guys, a little bit, that Aston Villa look this season a little bit more comfortable playing in the Premier League than in Europe. I really think that they have been good, of course, in Europe. I'm not saying no to that, but I thought that they were going to hammer their opponents a bit more, considering the level of the Premier League, but they haven't been able to translate the superiority that they saw in many Premier League games in the Conference League that much. Yeah. All that said, I think that Aston Villa is the favorite for the tie, even though Olympiakos are playing the second game at home, and that's going to definitely be very important for the Greek side. But Aston Villa, this season, they have shown as well that despite the good team they are, they can lose control of the game, as you said, Leo, and they lose control very quickly. Do you remember against Brentford, I think that the key was attacking the side or the channel of Konsa with Reguilón, and that became 3 goals straight away for Brentford in the second half in the space of 20 minutes, maybe. Yeah. The other day against Chelsea, for example, it looked like Aston Villa had it under control, and Chelsea turned the situation around in the second half, and it was a 2-2 scoreline. Of course, games are difficult. Aston Villa is not like Manchester City, it's not like Arsenal. I think that sometimes when they are leading in the scoreline, they don't have the players to add some pause to the game and slow it down a little bit. Aston Villa is a little bit more about either attacking as they did in the second half against Arsenal, just going at it, or being at home on the front foot all the time. But when it comes to dealing with results and having to slow it down a little bit and all that, maybe they are not as good as other sides are, which is something very different from what Unai Emery's Villarreal was. Unai Emery at Villarreal was about pure speculation and making sure that they had the ball and they slow it down. With Aston Villa, I think that I have the feeling that Aston Villa has to run more than that Villarreal, has to run more than that Sevilla, because Aston Villa has those players. And, full credit to Unai Emery, because in 18 or 20 months in charge of Aston Villa, he has clearly identified what Aston Villa is about. He hasn't been a slave of his own ideas, and he has adapted his style to the players he had. and Aston Villa is doing very well, and hopefully they will qualify for the Champions League. This game is interesting. Dibu being out suspended is a massive blow for me, for Aston Villa, really. Let's see if Yuri Tielemans is in or not for this game. Aston Villa in Villa Park has won all the 6 games in the Conference League. That's something that we shouldn't forget. And when it comes to Olympiakos, look, they've got the 3rd manager of the season already. Mendilibar, who has won already a European trophy last season with Sevilla as well. This is the encounter between 2 Basque managers, Emery from Gipuzkoa, Mendilibar from Biscay. And Olympiakos is not enjoying their best season. The best unbeaten run or the best winning run in their own local league belongs to some other sides. They are 4th in the decisive playoffs to win the Greek Super League. But with Mendilibar, they have improved. And a player like Ayoub El Kabi has scored 5 goals in the Europa League, which is really good. Same for them, Masouras is suspended because Masouras has been one of the best players of Olympiakos this season. But Olympiakos has dangerous footballers. Masouras was one of them. He's not ready, but Jovetic will be there. Podence, we know him very well from Wolverhampton Wanderers, will be there as well. Ayoub El Kabi will more likely be there as well. So I'm going to back Olympiakos somehow with an Asian handicap of 1+0.5 for Olympiakos. That pays 166, and I like this one really.
Dani, Alvaro mentioned that when you look at the table on the Greek league, you will see that we will see, of course, that Olympiakos is not doing very well. But something that I like this team, and maybe it could be something positive for them going into Birmingham, into Villa Park, is that it's a team that they have already in this competition overcome many tough situations. Because yes, it's true, on the playoff to get to the last 16, no problems against Fenerbahce, 2 clean sheets in that tie. But then in the round of 16, they provided one of the top stories this season in Europe. Yes. A stunning comeback, a miracle. Losing 4-1 at home, but winning 6-1 away. That was amazing. And then more suffering against Fenerbahce because they go on 3-0 up, and then the game turns into 3-2 at home. They go away to Turkey, and they win it on penalties. So do you think this could help them to overcome what could be a very tough atmosphere and a great team, of course, against Aston Villa?
Or the other side of the argument is, have they run out of luck now? I mean, after 2 times, the 3rd time is when he gets you. But I think that sums up really well what Olympiakos are and have been in the last couple of seasons. Wild, crazy. I mean, it's a team that's changed so much in the last 2 seasons, still managed to be fighting for the Greek league, although they can still win it this season. They're 5 points behind AEK, but because the next 3 games, it's difficult, I know. Next 3 games, AEK, PAOK, Panathinaikos, if they win them all, they might still have a chance, but Olympiakos is a wild club. Last season, they changed 4 managers, signed 21 players. In the end, they used them 47, including Marcelo and James Rodriguez. This season, they only changed 3 managers, Martinez and Carvajal before Mendilibar. Massive changes in the summer. They got players like Solbak and Kini. Ortega plays for Velez, by the way. Use 36 players so far. But yeah, it's a team that constantly changes, but they do manage to get through. By the way, good news for them. They won the Youth League recently. They beat Milan.
Incredible.
Yeah. And incredible. I think this is a big news because, I mean, not normally a Greek club made, obviously, that team is made of all Greek players. So, good things to come for them soon. But against Aston Villa, a team that I know, I agree with Alvaro, they are struggling to keep control sometimes of the games, but they score 73 Premier League goals, which is the best since 1977. They're going to break the record. 43 goals at home this season, which is top with the other 5 clubs. So the high scorers only failed to score once in all competition at the Villa Park. They got such informed players. Holly Watkins, 31 Premier League goals contributions. Leon Bailey, 26 goals involvement, and the list goes on. They've won 20 Premier League matches this season, which is the first time since 92-93. I do believe this is the objective number 1 for them, and they are stronger than Olympiakos. I think they're going to win this one. By the way, Olympiakos on the return leg, they got 7 days to prepare. They're not going to play in the league until the return leg. So there is a bit of an advantage, I think, for the Greek side, especially if it's a tight game. Aston Villa is an handicap -1 for me, 174.
Yeah, but maybe that advantage could be a little bit reduced by Aston Villa knowing that the gap with Tottenham fighting for the Champions League spot by the Premier League is almost but secure for Emery's side.
That's true.
And guys, the other semi-final is, of course, Fiorentina Club Brugge. For the Viola to secure a ticket to this tie came with more difficulties because they need to go to extra time against Victoria Pilsen. But for Club Brugge, everything was more smooth thanks to Ferran Jugla in the return leg, scoring a brace against PAOK. Dani, Fiorentina are rightly favorites here to get to the second Conference League final in a row. They are a team at home that can make you enjoy their football flair, but away from home, they can make you sometimes a little bit depressed, as happened with Atalanta in the Coppa Italia. They have scored 50 goals in Serie A so far. 33 of them have come at the Artemio Franchi. 5 of those 33 scored on Sunday against Sassuolo. Can they be as confident as the bookies to reach Athens?
It's all about them, I think, because Fiorentina got the knowledge, the know-how. They've been in the final before, and they are an experienced side, but they need to learn from previous mistakes. And the problem is, with the third year in charge of Italiano, they always seem to make the same mistakes. And the mistakes are basically 2. First of all, they need to produce an awful lot of football to create clear-cut chances. They will be up in all the stats for possession, for shots, for crosses, for everything. But sometimes they look a little bit sterile. Also, the Italiano way of playing, it's very physically demanding, it's marking, it's a high press, but that leaves them exposed. And sometimes they concede cheap goals on the break. Last season, they lost the final against West Ham because they had the line so high in the last minute of the final. And unfortunately, they don't have so quick defenders, especially in the middle. Milenkovic, Martinez Quarta, Ranieri. They're not Kyle Walker, just to pick a comparison. And so they get beaten for pace. 2-3 days ago against Atalanta in the semi-final, they were drawing 1-1. Then they conceded the goal, and then they conceded another goal on the break. They would have gone to the extra time, but instead they still playing with a high line with 10 men. So sometimes it really is the lack of focus, is the lack of nerves. But this is the real objective of the season. The Conference League, it will be the first trophy of the Rocco Commisso, the new president here, has been there a few years, of course. But if they manage to be a little bit more clinical, they could beat Bruges. But sometimes they're a bit stuttering there. My tip here is under 2.5 goals, 182. And I know both are high scoring side, but I'm not quite convinced. Fiorentina have got really what it takes to score a lot of goals in this game. They could win it by 1 or 2. A few words on Brugge: 12 wins in the last 16 in the Conference League. They won the last 7 games. They should be winning the Belgian title. They're fighting with Anderlecht, 1-3-0 away at Genk. Also, a team that has changed a lot. Nick Hayden replaced Rory Delia, won 6 of the first 7. In the last 3 seasons, Brugge have changed 7 managers, including Philippe Clement, Schroeder, and Scott Parker. So it's been a lot of turnover, but it's a team that's got a very strong philosophy, always giving opportunity to young players, selling the best player for a lot of money, like of course De Catelare. But so far has been successful. Look at Igor Thiago, Ferran Jugla, they got Skov Olsen, Van Aken is probably the most famous player there. But yeah, it is a team that I think could be really considered a strong outsider. Under 2.5 goals, 182.
And Alvaro, they are, of course, as Dani said, 2 scoring side. I mentioned the 50 goals of Fiore in the Fiorentina and the Serie A, and the Club Brugge, even though they're trailing almost by 20 points, they are behind Union Saint-Gilloise. They have scored 62 times, which is only 1 goal less than the team top of the table, actually, Union Saint-Gilloise. But also, not just that they can score as Fiorentina can score, but they have the third best league defense in the league in Belgium. Basically, when they lose, is never for big margins. So basically, even though the talking points for many would be about Jugla scoring for Brugge, what could make a real difference, don't you think, is how well they do defensively, thinking about taking the game to Belgium for the second leg?
Well, it's true that they don't concede many goals. I mean, in the league, they have played 30 games. They have conceded 29 goals. And as you were saying, Leo, the margin when they lose is quite tight. I mean, they have lost this season 4 games in the league, and all the games have been lost by only 1 goal. Against Standard Liège, against Ghent, against Kortrijk, and against Union Saint-Gilloise. So the numbers are there, and the truth is that they always stay in the game. They are competitive at their level, that's for sure. I don't know if they are going to win their league, because that's maybe easier saying than doing, and their legs is still having a little bit of an advantage over them. But, I think that it's a very interesting game, because in the Conference League, they have proven that they know how to deal with the different challenges that they get, and that's important. Let's not forget that this side beat Osasuna in the playoffs, which, in my opinion, it was always a problem for Osasuna to face such a good team in the playoffs. But for Blues as well, facing a Spanish side, it wasn't something that they wanted, and they dealt with it. They beat Osasuna 4-3 in the aggregate, and then the group stage, they negotiated perfectly. 16 points out of 18 is a great turnout. They only drew 1 game. It was against Besiktas. And then in the knockouts, yes, they suffered against Molde in the first leg, but then they turned that situation around. Against PAOK, they were far better than PAOK Thessaloniki, unfortunately for my family, but it was 3-0 in the aggregate for Club Brugge. And I think that in this game, they are not the favorites, of course, because Fiorentina was in the final of this competition last year. But I do believe that they can put a really, really big fight. And I do believe that Fiorentina will have to grind out this side if they want to beat them. It's not going to be easy at all. So, I'm going to go for both teams to score, because I believe that in these competitions we have seen many goals in the Europa League and in the Conference League. And because I believe that Fiorentina at home are going to score for sure. And I look at Bruce and the numbers, for example, of Jugla lately, scoring many goals, the Spanish former Barcelona striker, and that points me in the goals market. So both teams to score 190.
And at least I will add, because I mentioned that the defensive spirit of Club Brugge, and if they lose, they don't lose by big margins, as Alvaro explained. Goals under 2.5, that is at 1.82. Guys, before we move on to the territory of SafeBet and ACCA, any other tip you would like to mention? Something that I didn't let you talk before?
But I think Nico Gonzalez probably is the man to watch. Nico Gonzalez.
Yeah.
I mean, it's been so good when he came on in the second half against Sassuolo. So yeah, to score an assist, I think he's the man.
And of course, Oli Watkins in the previous game.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, Nico Gonzalez scoring twice yesterday against Sassuolo in the Artemio Franchi again. As always, amazing insight from Alvaro Romeo and Daniele Fisichella. Before we move into the SafeBet and ACCA, for all of you watching the show, guys, please do not forget to join our monthly tipster competition. There are 2 very important things here. The first one is that this competition is for free to join on our website. You could win €1,000 in the prize pool. For all of you who have already joined the competition, let me tell you that we have taken notice of your feedback. We have tweaked the rules for our tipster community, which this change is coming into effect from Wednesday, the 1st of May. It will take less than a minute for you guys to read them, so please do so. And if you haven't done it yet, please join this monthly tipster competition. Alvaro, what's your SafeBet and ACCA for these Europa League semifinals and Conference League semifinals?
The thing is that I did separately, one for the Europa League and one for the Europa. Okay. So my SafeBet for the Europa League will be Roma Leverkusen over 2 goals, 150. And my ACCA for the Europa League will be Roma Leverkusen, both teams to score, Marseille Atalanta, both teams to score. Altogether 316.
Nice. And you, Dani, I don't know if you have done it separately or if you combine them, SafeBet and ACCA.
For me, the safe bet is Aston Villa Asian handicap -1 against Olympiakos, 174. The ACCA 3 selections, the total odds are 582. Roma, Bayer Leverkusen, both team to score. Atalanta, Marseille, both team to score. Fiorentina, Bruges, under 2.5 goals.
Guys, amazing. Thanks a lot, Daniele. Thanks, Alvaro. Yes, Alvaro, you want to say something else? Sorry.
Yeah, of course. My safe bet and my ACCA in the Conference League.
It's true because you say you done separately.
Yeah,
Yes,
That's
there
true.
we go.
Yeah, separately, yes.
My safe bet for the Conference League will be Fiorentina Bruges over 2 goals, and Mayaka, Aston Villa Olympiakos, both teams to score. Fiorentina Bruges, both teams to score. Altogether 370.
Amazing. Thanks a lot, Alvaro. Thanks a lot, Dani.
Thank you.
Ciao.
And for you guys, for all of you watching, do not forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notifications bell. See you next time. Bye-bye.
Ciao, ciao, ciao.
Bye bye.